Lux was a banished orphan prince who destroyed his country to get revenge. However, everything changes when he enrolls in an all-girls academy to hide his identity, but accidentally rises up the new princess and cracks everyone. One night, while Lux was chasing after a thieving cat, he fell through a roof and landed on top of a baddie taking a bath. The girl, Leisha, quickly covered the tattoo on her stomach and asked if he had any last words. He tried to put his Reddit-rizzing technique to use by complimenting her, but this made the situation worse for him. In the end, they locked him up, hoping to crush his coconuts that afternoon. As he begged to save his family jewels, a girl named Crucifer came to see him to ask about his black sword. But then, another girl arrived and said she was taking him to see the headmaster. On getting there, the headmaster, Relly, revealed that she wanted him to work at the academy full-time, which surprised them. The academy was created to train female drag knights to pilot drag rides, a mecha-like weapon of destruction. However, Lux, being the former prince of the old empire, which fell after a coup, was one of the few males who could pilot one. The next moment, Leisha stormed in and said she had already prepared a hot knife to carve his family jewels. To calm her, Relly announced that Lux's punishment would be decided by Leisha and the others involved in the bathroom incident. Immediately, Leisha challenged Lux to a duel, saying that if he lost, he would be locked up and branded a degenerate pig for life. But if he won, she would let him stay and work at the academy like Relly wanted. Then she told the girls to spread the word that the princess of the new empire was taking on the prince of the old empire, and that was when Lux realized he was cooked. Later, Lux met his sister, Ayiri, who reminded him that as members of the former royal family, they were already considered criminals, and if he got locked up, she would be left to repay all the debts to the empire alone, so he had to defeat Leisha. Curious, Lux asked whether Leisha was strong, and Nokudo, Ayiri's roommate, answered that she was currently undefeated. Later on, everyone gathered in the arena to witness Lux's burial. Once the barriers were put up, they pulled out their swords and equipped their drag rides. However, when Leisha saw that Lux's ride was the regular wyvern version, she began mocking him. She also felt confident since her ride was a divine wyvern with special weapons and abilities. However, when she opened fire on him, Lux skillfully dodged them, prompting her to ask if he was auditioning for the 12 dancing princesses. She then increased her firepower, forcing Lux to go on the defensive and get his sword broken. She then advised Lux to switch to his black sword device if he wanted to live. When Lux refused to ditch his tin can drag ride, she wished him a safe trip to the afterlife and sent her drones after him. These were meant as a distraction, and once she had him where she wanted, she unleashed a ray of death. Fortunately, Lux had plot armor on his side, so the shot destroyed the barrier instead. The instructor immediately ordered it redeployed, and as the fight continued, Leisha grew impatient. So, out of desperation, she activated her special skill called Heavenly Voice and pinned Lux to the ground. However, using that attack and controlling her ride at the same time drained her, and she started losing control of her ride. At that same moment, an unknown person played a flute that summoned a gargoyle known as Abyss. And coincidentally, the barrier also went down. The officials immediately swung into action to protect the students, but when they attempted to erect another barrier, the Abyss destroyed it. Lux quickly moved to protect Leisha and then asked her to fire her gun when he gave her the signal. He then lured the Abyss away and intentionally allowed himself to get struck. That was the signal, so Leisha shot the distracted creature to oblivion, while Lux fell to the ground unconscious. Later that evening, Lux woke up in the dorm room, and Leisha walked in with a bowl and a cloth, but suddenly became shy. She quickly explained that she only wanted to repay him for saving her and asked why he even put himself in danger in the first place. Lux said his instincts told him to, and as they continued to converse, Leisha told him he had proven himself worthy of this academy. She also told him that she challenged him to the fight because she couldn't let him get away with seeing the former empire's crest that was tattooed on her. She refused to tell him how she got it, but pleaded with him to keep it a secret, and Lux swore to take the secret to his grave. On her way out, she asked why he hadn't used his black sword when he had the chance, and Lux told her that it was a secret he wasn't ready to share. Deciding not to pry, she informed him that he would be attending classes as a student, and Lux was shocked. As Leisha walked away, they didn't notice Crucifer watching them from the other end of the hallway. The next day, Lux's introduction to his new class was met with mixed reactions. Some of the girls liked having a hot guy to look at, while some wondered why the headmaster would allow a suspected sock addict to join the academy. Lux heard their whispers and began wishing that the floor would swallow him whole. However, that thought disappeared when his childhood friend, Filthy. Realizing they knew each other, the teacher asked Lux to sit next to Fifi, and that made Leisha jealous. After classes in the afternoon, the girls surrounded Lux and began making requests, since he was still the school handyman. But Leisha shocked everyone by asking him to be her exclusive caretaker and assistant. She then made it worse when she mentioned that he'd already seen her in her birthday suit. Lux quickly tried to clarify the situation, but Filthy got up and told Lisha to stop making her friend uncomfortable. Just then, Krulsifer, who had been observing everyone in silence, approached them and said Relly had asked her to get Lux. Once they were outside, Lux thanked Krulsifer for coming to his rescue and asked why she'd done it. Ignoring his question, she asked if he knew the Black Hero and put in a request for him to help her find the guy. That night, Lux had another dream, and this one was clearer than the first. He was speaking to his brother Fugel in an underground room, and Fugel told him that most of his friends would die. The young Lux pleaded with him, saying they needed to find a way to minimize casualties, but Fugel just smiled. At that moment, Lux woke up and realized he was acting as the big spoon to Filthy's little spoon while groping her melons. He immediately jumped out of bed, and as he began screaming at her to get dressed, Tilfer opened the door, saw the scene, and shut it again. She then alerted the entire dorm to what she believed was the scandal of the year, so when Lux met Ayiri later, she asked when he'd stopped getting into questionable situations. Lux explained that he'd done nothing wrong except sleep in his bed, but he hadn't expected that Filthy would be his bloody roommate and crawl into bed with him. When he spoke to Relly about it earlier, she told him there were no free rooms and asked him to watch her little sister. Hearing this, Ayiri sympathized with Lux because his life was about to become a roller coaster. Later in the day, Lux went to respond to his first request of the day in the Wyvern warehouse and was surprised to find Lisha sleeping there. She revealed that she was the one who had made the request, then showed him his Wyvern, which she'd fixed up. Lux was surprised, and even more so when she informed him that he had qualified to join the school's Night Squadron, a special unit consisting of the best cadets at the academy. After Lux agreed to join the squad, Lisha then asked him to accept her real job request and took him to an expensive restaurant. Unfortunately, she left her wallet at school, so Lux ended up buying them snacks from the stalls in town. When she finished them, he took her to the bell tower because she said she needed a place to rest. While enjoying the view, Lisha suddenly grew serious and began telling Lux her backstory. She said the former Empire took her hostage during the coup because her father was one of the main participants. They had branded her to show him that she belonged to them, and all Lisha wished for was that her father would save her. He never did, and after the coup was over, she was the only member of the Adismena family left, so she became the new Empire's princess. She didn't think she deserved to lead the people while bearing the former Empire's brand and asked Lux if it hurt to lose his position, but he didn't respond. Later, while replaying Lisha's question in his mind, Lux fell asleep and dreamt of the past again. This time, Fugel had slaughtered people in the throne room, and a young Lux was utterly heartbroken. Fugel didn't care and laughed manically before holding his sword to Lux's face and telling him that he was too weak and stupid to understand how the world truly worked. The next moment, Lux woke up, and before he could gather his thoughts, the bell began ringing, signaling that an abyss had appeared. The kingdom's drag knights were already en route to take it out, but the school's night squad was also mobilized to help them. As they flew off, Ahiri noticed that Lux looked troubled, and when she asked why, he pointed out how strange it was that 2 abyss attacks had happened back to back. Eventually, Lisha and the others arrived at the scene, and just as they were about to finish the abyss off, the mysterious guy played the flute again. The next moment, the abyss exploded and from its remains emerged gargoyles. As if that wasn't bad enough, the captain of the kingdom's drag knights turned out to be a traitor who was still loyal to the former empire. His name was Regreed, and as he began playing the flute, the abyss attacked, and as the battle intensified, Nokuto returned to school. When Lux heard her say the situation was more serious than they thought, he decided to suit up. Back on the battlefield, Lisha used Heavenly Voice to hold the abyss down, but her squad informed her that they weren't in a position to fight and had to retreat. Left with no choice, Lisha decided to go after Regreed since he was the one controlling the abyss, but he mocked her, saying she was unfit to rule. When she clapped back, he sent the gargoyles after her, and while fighting them, she was suddenly knocked out of the sky by remnants of the former Empire's army. As Lisha lay on the ground, Regreed tore her suit, exposing her brand, and then began bragging that he was responsible for it. Lisha tried to fight back, but only managed to graze his cheek, and that pissed him off. Just as he attempted to stab her, Lux arrived and stopped him. During the struggle, Regreed cut off one of Lux's wyvern arms, forcing him to unequip it. He then told him that a failure like him didn't stand a chance against his army, so Lux decided to prove him wrong. He pulled out his black sword and equipped the divine drag ride Bahamut, revealing that he was the black hero who took down the former empire. After Lux took out the gargoyles and the rebels, Regreed demanded to know why he was fighting for the empire, which demoted him to an unpaid chore boy and made him wear a collar, as if he were some domesticated dog. He then tried to attack him, but Lux finished him using his special ability called Reload on Fire, leaving Lisha to stare at him in all his aura farming glory. 2 weeks later, the girls organized a surprise party to celebrate Lux's enlistment in the Night Squadron. However, Relly turned it into a game and said whoever could collect a red request form from Lux would be his master for a week. But if he still had it when the allotted time was up, he wouldn't have to be a lackey anymore. Lux immediately ran, and Lisha helped him hide in the Wyvern warehouse. She assured him that she wasn't interested in the game and asked him to tell her more about his Bahamut and the Black Hero. Lux hesitated, but she assured him that his secret was safe because everyone who had witnessed his transformation had promised to keep his secret. As he began explaining how his Bahamut worked, he was suddenly picked up by the unmanned Wyvern next to him. And that was when he realized that Lisha had fooled him. However, he also knew how to play the deceit game, and after he convinced Lisha to let him go, he ran away. His next hiding spot was behind some bushes, but Filthy happened to find him. She told him that Really had promised her some cake if she found him, and as a foodie, she couldn't refuse. She twisted his arm and only let go when the form fell out of his shirt, but Lux grabbed it before she could and ran off, promising to get her cake another time. In his quest for a new hiding spot, he accidentally wandered into the changing room, and since the plot gods were his ops at the moment, Sharice, Tilfer, Nokudo, Krulsifer, and a girl named Shania walked in. As they began to change, he heard Shania mention him. Sharice and Tilfer assured her that Lux wasn't a peeping Tom, and even Nokudo vouched for him. Lux wondered whether they would still defend him if he were discovered, and almost immediately, Krulsifer walked over to his hiding spot. Thankfully, she didn't rat him out and made up an excuse to stay back. Once they were alone, she warned him to be more careful and informed him that he didn't have to hide anymore since the hour was up. However, she suddenly asked to see the form, and like a fool, Lux handed it to her. The next moment, the clock sounded, and Krulsifer revealed to the boy with the outdated Windows Explorer brain that she'd moved the clock hands forward. As he fell to his knees in disbelief, she informed him that he was going to be her boyfriend for the week, causing him to scream. That night, Ayiri warned Lux to be wary of Krulsifer, believing the girl was hiding something. Lux could see why she was suspicious of Krulsifer, so he gave her his word. The next day, while everyone stared at Lux and Krulsifer at breakfast, she explained why she needed him to pretend to be her boyfriend. It was public knowledge that she was the daughter of the Count of a neighboring country. However, they didn't know that she'd been sent to the Empire to find herself a suitable husband. She wasn't interested in doing that, but she needed Lux to be her stand-in for when her family butler arrived. Lux thanked her for considering a useless lowlife like him, but advised her to find someone else to fill the role. In response, she signaled him to come closer and then whispered into his ear that she would tell everyone that he'd been in the changing room. Hearing this, Lux swore to be the boyfriend of the year, and Krulsifer felt pleased. On the other side of the cafeteria, Lisha was about to boil over from jealousy as she watched Lux and Krulsifer. That night, while Krulsifer and Lux were studying in the common room, Lisha showed up with a sleepy Filthy and an excited Tilfer. She complained that it was too late for them to be together, but then got mad at Filthy when she went to rest her head on Lux's shoulder. Uninterested in Lisha's display of jealousy, Krulsifer tried to excuse herself, but Lisha suddenly announced that she had held hands with Lux. The room instantly went silent, prompting the dumb princess to continue gloating because she actually believed that holding hands was equivalent to getting to third base. Krulsifer was convinced she was pranking them, while Tilfer tried not to die from secondhand embarrassment. As for Lux, he asked Lisha if she even knew what kissing was, and she was offended, saying he was trying to make a point of her stupidity. She then got all shy and said it was something married couples did when making plans. This made Krulsifer ask if she'd gotten that answer off a Wikipedia page, but Lisha was too busy acting all dumb and shy to hear her. That was until Krulsifer advised Lux to get to bed so he could be refreshed for their date. So the next day, she made Filthy wear a disguise with her and then followed Lux and Krulsifer into town. The unsuspecting pair visited a noble's clothing store to get an outfit tailored for Lux, and when Filthy mentioned that Lux was shirtless, Lisha nearly lost it. Later, on their way back to school, Lux and Krulsifer were attacked by a group of drag knights of unknown origin. Lux kept them occupied long enough for Krulsifer to activate her drag ride. Then, using her special ability, Wise Blood, she took them out before they could attack, leaving Lux in awe. It was Lisha who explained that Krulsifer's divine drag allowed her to see the future, but Lux wasn't even concerned about that anymore. He wanted to know why the girls were there, and Lisha claimed it was all a coincidence. Just then, one of the attackers tried to escape, so Lux began chasing him. However, it was Krulsifer's family butler, Alterize, who caught the guy. Later, while they were seated in a restaurant, Krulsifer informed Alterize that Lux was her boyfriend. Lisha and her big mouth almost ruined everything, but Lux quickly covered her mouth. Just then, a blonde guy suddenly showed up at their table and said he'd come to see Krulsifer, his future wife. He introduced himself to her as Barzaride, and Lisha instantly recognized his family name as it one of the 4 great noble families. Barzaride felt proud that his name preceded him, but when Krulsifer said she wouldn't leave her boyfriend for him, he became offended. He pointed out that Lux was a has-been noble, but seeing that Krulsifer didn't really care, he decided to challenge Lux to a duel. Krulsifer said they could make it more interesting by having a tag team duel and told her pompous fiancé that he could partner with Altarise. Barzeride accepted her proposal and left after announcing that the duel would be in 3 days. Later at night, Barzeride spoke with a cloaked individual about the ruins and said the guy now had the key to enter its depths. The guy's response was inaudible, but Barzeride looked pleased and promised to set the stage for him. He then called the guy his friend and began laughing, like someone had slipped him some Joker gas. The next day at the academy, Krulsifer thanked Lux for helping her the day before and asked whether she was nervous about their upcoming duel. She said that she wasn't, and added that they wouldn't have a problem if he used his divine drag. As Lux pondered the idea, she curiously pointed out that other people in his situation would be freaking out. The moment she mentioned that Lux was doing a lot for her, even though they weren't really dating, Leisha showed up and inserted her royal self into the conversation. She said she was glad that their relationship was a ploy to get out of an unwanted marriage and happily offered to tune up Lux's drag ride. The boy tried to refuse, but Krulsifer cut him off and said she was leaving to handle some personal business. Once she was gone, Leisha noticed Lux sighing and asked what the issue was. He explained that he was just tired, and she sympathized with him. Later in the day, as Lux walked through the halls praying for the day to be over, Tilfer suddenly came and dragged him away. To his surprise, she took him to a room where Leisha and Filthy were waiting in all their fan service glory. Apparently, Leisha had gone to ask Tilfer for help after Lux told her he was sleep-deprived, and the girl had suggested giving him the dweeb fantasy special. As Leisha tried to cover up, Tilfer changed and then told Lux to let himself be pampered a little, but he didn't want to. It wasn't until Leisha shyly asked if he wanted the massage happy ending that he agreed to the maid's service. Meanwhile, members of the 4 great nobles gathered for the first time in forever to discuss Ragnarok, a powerful abyss living in the depths of the ruins. They feared that it would bring about the end of times if it awakened. But Barzeride's father told them not to worry. He revealed that there was a weapon in the ruins which could suppress Ragnarok and volunteered his son to carry out the mission to retrieve it. That night, Relly gathered the Night Squadron to discuss investigating the ruins. She said she'd done some digging and learned they needed a key to venture into the ruins' depths. And if her suspicion was right, Ragri's flute was the key, so she entrusted it to Lux. Shortly after that, Leisha informed Lux that she planned to install a drill in his drag ride, but he told her not to even think about it. As she began complaining, Lux noticed Krulsifer acting as a background painting and wondered what was up with her. So after the meeting, he went to speak to her, and she informed him that she was joining the investigation. Lux couldn't understand why, since she was an outsider and such matters shouldn't concern her, but she explained that it was a chance for her to accomplish her goals. Her answer was very vague, so while he was in the bath, Lux kept trying to decipher what Krulsifer's true motives were. However, his brainstorming session was cut short when he realized that Filthy was in the bath with him. After almost drowning because of shock, he turned away from her and asked why she was there. Filthy explained that she trained late and Raleigh had told her that she could still use the bath. Hearing this, Lux realized that the headmaster had set him up, so he quickly tried to leave to save himself, but Filthy asked him to stay. Lux tried to refuse, but when he saw the dumb girl had dozed off, he realized she shouldn't be left unsupervised. When he tried to wake her, he noticed that the scar she once had on her back had disappeared, and Filthy admitted that she had no recollection of it. This made him wonder whether he had a bad memory, but he couldn't dwell on it because Filthy suddenly asked him to be careful during the mission. Lux promised that he would, but the next second, he passed out because of the heat, and Filthy didn't even rush to save him. The following day, during the pre-mission briefing, the instructor brought in Barzeride. Leisha angrily demanded to know why they were taking wannabe Prince Charming with them, and the guy claimed he was there to ensure Krulsifer's safety, which annoyed the Krulsifer. A while later, they arrived at the ruins, and were attacked by a Diablo Abyss when they tried to land on the ruin. The Abyss moved so fast that none of their shots could hit it, so Krulikfer activated Wise Blood and managed to land a hit. Wanting to show off as well, Barzeride fired his divine cannons, not caring that he could have hurt one of the girls. Then he challenged Lux to another duel, saying that whoever destroys the Abyss first would be the winner, and the other duel would be cancelled. Krulsifer told him not to flaunt his arrogance, but Barzeride put his hand on her shoulder and asked her not to treat him so harshly. In response, she shrugged his hand off and tried to take another shot at the Abyss, only to miss multiple times. When the Abyss retaliated, Lux pushed Krulsifer out of the way, and the rest of the squad opened fire on the creature. It continued evading them, but Barzeride, who no one noticed was using Krulsifer's ability, managed to hit it with an axe and it began puffing up. Everyone but Krulsifer, who had lost control of her ride, braced for impact, so Lux moved in to shield her, and at that moment, the ruins activated. A few moments later, Lux woke up to find that he and Krulsifer were somewhere on the ruins because the explosion had pulled them down. Krulsifer thanked him for acting as his meat shield, and he brushed it off, saying he was glad she was fine. She then suggested they head to the altar at the center of the ruins, as she was sure the others would do the same. On the way, Krulsifer almost collapsed because she hadn't recovered yet, but she insisted they needed to keep going, so Lux told her to lean against him. H then suddenly asked why she wanted to find the Black Hero, and Krulsifer said it was because he seemed to have an infinite source of energy. At that moment, they arrived at the altar, and Lux was surprised that it activated when Krulsifer stepped on it. The automated voice called her the key, so she explained to Lux that she was a survivor who came from the ruins. Before he could process her words properly, the ceiling began collapsing, so he grabbed her hand and ran through the door that just opened up and got trapped. Krulsifer then further revealed that her father had found her while exploring the ruins. He only took her home because he believed she could be useful to his research, but his family never accepted her. When she learned she was adopted, she tried to gain their affection by becoming a drag knight, but nothing changed. She'd once overheard them say she came from the ruins, so she joined the mission to confirm if it was true, and what had just happened confirmed it. Lux tried to convince her not to lose hope, but Krulsifer cut him off and apologized for dragging him into her mess. When she referred to herself as a worthless nobody, he got mad and grabbed her hands, telling her never to badmouth herself again. Krulsifer laughed at this and told him that if there were ever an award for the most gullible guy of the year, he'd win it. Lux just stepped back in shame, but Krulsifer asked why he was always so nice and ready to help after everything he'd been through. Lux said it was just his fate, then revealed that he, along with his mother and Ahiri, had been kicked out of the imperial court because of his grandfather. Shortly after that, his mother was involved in an accident, and because no one agreed to help her, she died from blood loss. That incident made him hate people, but after Filthy and her family helped him and Ahiri, he realized that not everyone was scum. So he vowed he'd create a country where his loved ones could live without hate. At this, Krulsifer asked whether he would have saved her if he had been the prince of the new empire. Before he could respond, Lisha had drilled through the rubble blocking the entrance. She made sure to give Lux the "I told you so" speech since he had argued that a drill didn't belong on a drag ride. After which she asked if they had kept their hands to themselves the entire time they were trapped. Lux told her to stop imagining crazy things, but the girl got all defensive and started calling him names. Later, after they returned to the academy, he told Ahiri that they hadn't found anything useful in the ruins. When she asked about the key, he just said it wasn't the flute, refusing to share the truth about Krulsifer because he wasn't a snitch. Ahiri believed him because why wouldn't she? And when she offered him a cup of herbal tea, which Krulsifer had sent to help him recover quickly from his exhaustion. However, it was actually a concoction to make him sleep and miss the duel because Krulsifer said she didn't want to keep dragging him into her mess. That night, Krulsifer met Barzaride and Alterized for the duel, and Barzaride was beyond pleased when he learned that Lux wasn't going to show up. He quickly equipped his drag ride and knocked Alterized out, saying he didn't need her interference. He then began fighting Krulsifer, who realized that her powers weren't working right. It wasn't until after Barzaride knocked her down and she was forced to unequip her ride that she realized he had done something. So she pointed out that he'd accompanied them to the ruins to confirm what her divine abilities were, and accused him of sending those unknown drag riders after her and Lux in town. Barzaride didn't deny the accusation and said he'd set everything up so that he could obtain the key to the ruins, which was her. He assured her that there was nothing she could do to change her fate and advised her to come along quietly and begin serving him as her new master. Before he could finish that sentence, Lux's sword came flying at him, but he moved just in time to avoid getting hit. He then began laughing when he realized that Lux was the Black Hero and called him a fool for exposing himself because of a girl. He was still yapping when Lux activated Reload on fire and charged at him, but Barzaride defended himself. Lux wasn't even surprised because he'd already deduced that Barzaride's divine ability allowed him to steal the abilities of those he touched. The continuous use of those abilities drained the energy from the real owner's drag ride, which was why Krulsifer had lost control at the ruins. Barzaride didn't appreciate Lux's Sherlock skills, so he tried to punish Krulsifer for it. Lux quickly moved to protect her, leaving himself open to Barzaride, who stole his Reload on fire ability. The noble then began chasing Lux, and since he could switch between abilities, it was very difficult for Lux to get away from him. As Barzaride began mocking Lux for being nothing without his ability, Krulsifer wondered out loud why Lux would risk his life for her. Ahiri, who was listening over the communication link, explained that Lux was just your average protag who liked helping everyone. She then asked Krulsifer to keep a close eye on Lux because the battle he was fighting was for her. Meanwhile, Lux continued struggling against Barzaride, and the idiot guy asked whether he was familiar with Ragnarok. He said he'd vowed to fight it on behalf of the new empire, but he needed new armor and skills from the ruins. And the only one who could get him those things was Krulsifer, since she was the key. He accused Lux of trying to put the Empire in harm's way by interfering with his plans, but Lux was too busy trying to retain control of his ride to respond. Seeing this, Krulsifer began crying and blaming herself for Lux's impending defeat, but he told her to wipe her tears away, saying that her boyfriend would do everything to save her. Barzarai told him to stop acting like he was on the verge of losing, but Lux showed him that he wasn't acting. He activated another ability named Recoil Burst, and with one strike, he took Barzarai down. The resulting explosion was seen from where Ahiri and Nokudo were, so Nokudo asked how Lux gained a second divine ability. Ahiri explained that her crazy brother had allowed his drag ride to rampage on purpose and then released the energy at the last second. Nokudo pointed out that it was a risky move, and Ahiri agreed. But Lux had a habit of not thinking some things through before he did them. A few days later, Lux and Crucifer met Altarise at a restaurant, and she informed him that he'd been promoted to Crucifer's fiancée. The shocked Lux tried to explain to Altarise that his relationship with Crucifer wasn't even real, but the woman didn't listen. After she left, Crucifer told Lux that she liked his aggressive side and then kissed him twice. Lisha, who was watching from the window, lost it and stormed into the restaurant to reclaim her man. A few days later, Lux was in his room with Shahriz, Nokudo, and Tilfer discussing Ragnarok. He felt bad that he'd rid the Empire of its only chance to defeat the creature, but Shahriz assured him that it wasn't so. She told him about a third year named Celestia, who was the daughter of one of the 4 great nobles and also the strongest person at the academy. Lux had heard all about Celestia because her reputation for being the greatest man-hater ever to live preceded her. Lux worried that his biological parts would prevent him from telling her the things he needed to, but Shahriz told him to cross that bridge when Celestia returned. She then invited him to go patrolling with her, but what he didn't expect was for her to force him to cross-dress since there was a peeper on the loose. While out, Lux died a few times from embarrassment, so when he finally got to catch his breath, he cursed Shahriz for making him agree to her crazy idea. Just when he decided to head back, he heard a voice coming from the bushes and went to investigate. To his surprise, it was Celestia, having a conversation with a cat like she was a cat whisperer or something. The cat soon ran off, and as Celestia tried to get it to return, Lux sensed someone behind him and screamed. The person held a knife to his throat, but Celestia intervened and demanded that they surrender. In response, the masked figure dropped a smoke bomb and threw their knife in a very calculated sneak attack. Lux noticed it, so he quickly stepped in front of Celestia and cut, but the masked person didn't stick around to see who they hit. Celestia then took Lux to the infirmary so she could get his cut checked out. Worried that she would discover he was a guy, Lux turned his back on her, and thankfully, his injury wasn't that serious. When Celestia finished, she pointed out that he had broad shoulders and wanted to know if he was skilled with a sword. Lux quickly shifted the focus from himself by asking why she'd been speaking to the cat earlier, and Celestia panicked. She swore she wasn't a cat lady in training, but then realized she was talking too much. So she changed the conversation and warned him not to pull such reckless moves again, and they ended up laughing. Before letting him leave, Celestia asked his name, since his face was unfamiliar, and Lux said he was named Luno. Celestia smiled at this and said she hoped they would become friends because she had taken a liking to him. Meanwhile, Barzarai was visited in prison by his cloaked friend, and he grew excited, thinking he'd come to get him out, only for the guy to turn on him and murder him in cold blood as he screamed in agony. Ragreed, who was in the opposite cell, could only watch in horror, and once Barzarai was dead, the cloaked guy began playing his flute. Almost immediately, the academy was surrounded by gargoyles, but they didn't attack. The next day, Lux decided to meet Celestia and discuss how to bring down Ragnarok. But before he could stand up from his bed, Tilfer knocked on the door to tell him that there was a problem. When they arrived at Reliz's office, there was a small crowd gathered, and they were all listening to Celestia complain. She didn't want Lux at the school and demanded that he be sent away immediately. Lisha was also there, and she was trying to defend Lux, but Celestia wasn't listening, so Lux decided to defend himself. She didn't even let him speak and said she was grateful he had protected the academy in her absence. However, he was a guy, and his presence wasn't welcome at their school. Lux then asked her to allow him to help her with the suppression of Ragnarok, but Celestia refused. When he kept insisting, Celestia got pissed at this and screamed in Lux's face that she didn't approve of him, so Rayleigh suggested that they settle the issue with a duel. 3 days later, all the members of the Night Squadron went to Reese Island for a training camp. While Celestia was briefing them, Lux noticed a familiar-looking house at the top of the mountain, but Lisha called out to him before he could remember anything. Training began shortly after that, and they didn't stop until nighttime. They were also exhausted and ready to catch the sleep train, but Lux chose that moment to return the female clothes to Shahriz. The girl told him to keep them because they looked good on him, but Lux refused. Unfortunately for him, Tilfer and Nokudo agreed with Shahriz, and as they began teasing him, Shania came looking for him. She told him Celestia had sent for him, and when he got to her room, he was shocked to find her in her birthday suit. It turned out that Shania had failed to mention to Celestia that Lux was the one coming in to give her a massage, so the boy had to improvise. He had coincidentally brought the clothes Shahriz gave him, so he quickly put them on and assumed his Luno persona. Once he was finished with the massage, Celestia was excited to see him and invited him to hang out with her the next day. The moment he stepped out of the room, Sania demanded to know who he was. Before Lux could respond, Krulsifer spoke up, saying she had business with Luno. Sania didn't believe her and accused her of meddling, but Krulsifer shot back, saying Sania was up to no good. Apparently, she'd been listening in at the door the entire time Lux was in there, and since she didn't want to explain why, she respected herself and left. Lux thanked Krulsifer for saving him, and she warned him to be careful around Sania because she was the one pushing Celestia to have him kicked out. Hours later, Lux woke up to find Filthy in his room, and she was dressed in the thinnest dress he'd ever seen. As he began questioning what she was doing in his room at that hour, she cut him off and asked if he wanted a hug. Lux remembered it was what she did when they were younger, and when he was sad, she told him he didn't need one. Filthy ignored his answer and hugged him anyway, saying they hadn't really changed much since they were younger. The next day, Celestia took Lux, dressed as Luno, to a swimsuit store. And after Celestia tried one on, she tried to convince Lux to do the same, but he ran away. Worried that she'd come on too strong, Celestial apologized when she found him, and Lux assured her that she had done nothing wrong. Relieved, Celestia hugged him, then took him to a field where they could enjoy the treats she had brought. While they chatted, Celestia suddenly decided to confide in him and reveal that she actually didn't hate men. Meanwhile, in the royal capital, the queen was informed that Ragnarok had vanished from the ruins. Only its empty husk was there, and all attempts to find it had been in vain. The next day at the camp, while Celestia and Sania were preparing for their swimming lesson, Sania asked if Lux would join. Because she referred to them as man-haters, Celestia remained silent for a few seconds before deciding to tell her what she'd told Luno earlier. She explained that she was quite fond of guys since she'd grown up around lots of them. However, she didn't know how to deal with younger guys and had vowed never to rely on any man because of her position as the daughter of one of the 4 great noble families. Later, at the beach, the girls called Lux over, but he tried not to look at them since they were all in swimsuits. As Krulsifer tried to convince him that they wouldn't claw his eyes out, Filthy began splashing water on him, so the wimpy boy ran away screaming, only to run into Lisha, trying to cover up her brand. Surprisingly, he didn't freak out as he did with the others and even complimented her like a true Rizzler. Lisha was the one who freaked out over his compliment, and as she screamed at him, Relly showed up with Ayuri. She said being young was a wonderful thing and encouraged them to spread their wings, but Lux suspected the woman was pushing them toward the wrong things. Just then, he noticed Ayuri comparing his peanuts to Relis's melons and called out to her. But the girl grew embarrassed and told him not to look at her, prompting Lisha to call him a pig. As he tried to defend himself, Celestia and Sania arrived, and Celestia asked Really if the training camp was just an excuse to have a beach episode. The woman told her not to ruin the vibe since she was already in a swimsuit, and Celestia shyly admitted that her friend had picked it out for her. As soon as she said this, she realized she hadn't seen Luno all day and asked where she was. The next moment, Lux was kidnapped by Shar, Riss, Tilfer, and Nokoto, who tried to convince him to wear a swimsuit. Lux refused and ran away before he was forced into the two-piece, but when he burst out onto the beach, he accidentally bumped into Cestia. He quickly apologized, but Celestia still spoke harshly to him before Sania escorted her away. Lux and the others just watched them, but Lux recalled something else she told him during their outing. She had said she owed Lux an apology because it was her fault that his grandfather and her teacher died. She also didn't want Lux to win the duel because she had vowed to protect him after his grandfather died, and if he became a drag knight, his life would always be in danger. That night, Lux sat in his room and told himself that he couldn't lose to Celestia. Unknown to him, things were about to get messy because the school stalker and the mysterious cloaked guy were having a secret meet and greet at the house on the hill. The next day, while the duel between Lux and Celestia was on the way, Tilfer and Shar tracked down the stalker. They accused the person of being a spy for the Heiberg Republic and claimed to have proof that the person had stolen information from the academy. The person had also spread the rumor about the stalker just to deceive Lux. They also knew the spy was actually Sania and advised her to come with them quietly. Sania wasn't even surprised, and after taking off her mask, she admitted that her mission was to eliminate them all and destroy the new empire. She then equipped her drag ride, but to the girls' surprise, it was glowing, and they began wondering when the new model had dropped. Back at the dueling ground, Lux and Celestia were still going at it when the area suddenly shook and tentacles shot out of the ground. The students immediately ran for their lives when they realized it was Ragnarok, but Lux stayed back to help Celestia. The girl insisted that he leave, still claiming that it was her sole responsibility to slay the creature, and when he refused, she took off. She attacked the creature head-on and used her teleportation ability to avoid getting hit until she defeated it. Unfortunately, that was only the prelude, and just as Sania, who had been watching the fight, said, her cloaked friend blew his flute. Immediately, Ragnarok revived, and when Lux spotted the cloaked guy, he thought it was Fugal. However, he couldn't dwell on that because Sania attacked Celestia, and he had to defend her. Sania called him a pathetic simp and thought that telling him that his grandfather had died because of Celestia would deter him, but Lux didn't even react. Annoyed, she shot him, causing him and Celestia to fall, but neither of them got hurt. Celestial then explained what happened with his grandfather and why she blamed herself. It turned out that she learned about the old empire's corruption and told him. Lux's grandfather then went to speak to the emperor and got locked up. He died while he was imprisoned, and his family, which included his daughter and grandchildren, were banished from the imperial court. Celestial asked Lux if he hated her, but Lux assured her that he didn't and said he already knew what had happened. When he pulled out his black sword, she recognized it as the one she'd seen with Luno, and that was the moment the truth clicked. Lux apologized for deceiving her, but said he had a job to do and left to fight Ragnarok. Using a limitless ability he developed, he pushed past Sania and successfully defeated the creature and saved the day. So Celestia focused her attention on Sania and demanded that she surrender, but the girl mocked her and flew off to steal Ragnarok's core. During that time, Lux was focused on the cloaked figure who introduced herself as Haze. She also revealed that she was preparing to revive a nightmare that had occurred on that island 5 years ago, and then left him to ponder what it was. At night, Celestia told Lux that she forgave him for lying to her and said she would allow him to stay at the academy and remain in the squad. Lux was happy about this, but his mind was troubled by what Haze had said. So when he was finally alone, he kept trying to remember what incident she'd been talking about. Suddenly, an earthquake struck, and a rune appeared out of nowhere, so Relly gathered the students and told them she would reveal the truth about their training camp. In the morning, Lux went to check on Filthy after hearing from Relly that she'd fainted during the incident. Filthy assured him that she was fine, and just as she thanked him for checking on her, Lisha came to find him. When he followed her, she took him to the workshop where he equipped his Bahamut, and she taught him how to remove his limiter. However, she warned him that he was only to use it during an emergency, because it was dangerous and could lead to his death. This made him question why she told him about it in the first place, and she reminded him that it was for emergencies. After she walked away, Ahiri told Lux that she had a bad feeling about the whole thing, and Lux said that made two of them. Later, Relly gathered Lux and his friends and explained that since Ragnarok had been defeated, the deepest layer of the ruins would be open, so they were going to investigate it. She said she, Ahiri, and Filthy were also joining them for the mission, and everyone was surprised. However, their surprise didn't last as they listened to Ahiri explain how they would get in and what the mission entailed. Lux then asked Filthy if she was sure she was strong enough to join them, and even though she confirmed that she was, he told her to let him know if she felt weak again. Once they were prepared to enter, they suited up and gathered at the ruins entrance, where a light beam transported them. Once inside, they stuck together and began exploring until Relly instructed them to split up and take different areas. Krolsifer, Lisha, and Sharis were asked to check the 4th floor. Tilfer, Filthy, and Relly took the 5th, while Lux was assigned the 6th floor. Celestial wanted to go with him, but Ahiri assigned her to go to the 3rd floor alone, and the girl grew depressed. Seeing this, Lux told her that she could tag along with his team for a while, and she instantly lit up. Later, while Lux was investigating the 6th floor with Ahiri and Nokudo, they discovered an unconscious girl. They immediately called Krolsifer to check on her, but since she didn't know what to expect, she asked Ahiri and Nokudo to regroup with her team. Once they were gone, Krolsifer revealed to Lux that the girl wasn't human, and the moment she touched her cheek, the girl powered on. She introduced herself as Krush, said she was an automaton, and identified herself as the ruins supervisor. Curious, Krolsifer asked if she could tell them about the old civilization, and Krush said she'd forgotten everything because she'd been asleep for too long. Seeing that her joke was received properly, she quickly explained that most of her data had been lost. She also told Krolsifer that she confirmed her as her administrator and would follow all her instructions. Suddenly, she recalled that if she connected to the central system, her data might be restored, and, as her administrator, Krolsifer could issue the restoration order. Lux believed it was worth the shot but said they had to inform the others first, and Krolsifer agreed. A little later, the entire squad regrouped, and while Celestia and Tullifer entertained Krusha, the others spoke with Relly. The headmaster confirmed that she was made from the old technology, but there wasn't much she knew about it. Krolsifer was mostly concerned that Krush kept referring to her as her administrator, because she knew that it was only Krush Creator who had full control over her. Just then, Relly announced they were moving, and Ahiri confirmed the 7th floor was their destination. No one except Lux noticed that Filthy looked unwell, so he went to her and offered to carry her the rest of the way. Meanwhile, in the capital, the head of the 4 great noble families held a meeting because Ragrid had escaped from prison. The information they had was that he was preparing another attack, but they didn't have enough drag knights, and one of the nobles suggested using the students from the academy to make up for it. Celestia's father immediately shot down the idea, but the man kept talking. He believed they could handle it since Lux had slain Ragnarok alone. The queen felt uneasy upon hearing this, and even more so when the guy mentioned he intended to have Lux work for him in the future. So she asked them to give her time to think about the issue and come up with a beneficial solution. Back in the ruins, Lux's new group arrived at that abyss production area when Filthy suddenly got a headache. She warned them that something was coming, and at the same time, Hayes was elsewhere playing her flute. The crazy girl only stopped when the light around her glowed brighter, and she said it was time for her seeds to germinate. Shortly after, Lux volunteered to confirm if the coast was clear, but a Diablo appeared out of nowhere and began attacking. Lux moved quickly and managed to save Tilfer from getting hurt, but it cost him one of his ride's arms. After the Diablo flew away, Krulsifer contacted Lux and informed him that, according to Crucia, the Abyss released 3 Abyss whenever it went on alert. Lux immediately asked Relly to call off the mission, but she refused and insisted that they had to keep going. As they argued over it, Filthy suddenly mounted her drag ride and zoomed off, saying that people would die if they didn't hurry. Lux instructed Tilfer to watch Relly, then equipped Bahamut and chased after Filthy. He caught up with her in no time, but he still found her behavior odd, so he asked if she'd been to the island before. Filthy didn't respond before the ruins teleported them outside, and once there, they had no chance to talk because a gargoyle attacked. Filthy quickly began fighting it, and after she and the creature fell near the house on the hill, Lux suddenly began having horrifying flashbacks of the place. Before he could piece everything together, Filthy was thrown into the building by the Abyss, so he finished it off and went to find her. The place had an old basement, and as Lux began looking around, he recalled that it had once been the site of the former Empire's human experiments. He had been one of the victims, but he couldn't remember whether Filthy had also been there at the time. As his head began to hurt, he found Filthy curled up in one of the rooms and tried to help her, but she told him to leave because the Abyss was close. Lux thought she was being delirious, but then she suddenly pinned him against the wall and tried to strangle him to death. In that moment, her eyes were no longer human, and she smiled wickedly. However, she suddenly let go of him and collapsed, and as Lux tried to catch his breath, Hayes walked in. Meanwhile, back in the ruins, Krulsifer and Lisha defeated one of the other abysses. Then Ahi recalled and informed them that the last abyss had been defeated at the cost of Tilfer and Shah Riss's drag rides. She also said they had located the entrance to the deepest part of the ruin but needed a key to open it. Back in the abandoned lab, Lux held Hayes at sword point and demanded to know why she was there. The girl explained that Filthy had the seed of a Ragnarok growing inside her and that she was also turning into an abyss. Since her transformation had already begun, she was supposed to be completely loyal to Ragnarok's orders. However, Filthy had managed to oppose them, which was why she kept having headaches and fevers. Apparently, the order was to unalive Lux, and Hayes was the one who gave the Ragnarok the order because it was her pet. Lux couldn't hide his surprise, and Hayes didn't bother hiding her laughter as she revealed that if Filthy kept refusing the order, she would keep suffering until she died. Knowing that Lux wouldn't want that to happen, she said she would order the Ragnarok to leave Filthy alive if he opened the door to the depths of the ruin. When she tried to leave, Lux demanded to know who she was, and she told him in a roundabout way that they were related. Later, at the camp, when Filthy woke up, she told Lux that she was hungry, so she got her some food. While she ate, he learned that she couldn't remember what happened, so he didn't tell her anything, even though he noticed one of her eyes had changed. After he left her room, he slammed his hand against the wall and began having a mental battle with himself over what to do until Relly called out to him. Together, they went to her room, and there Relly told him that Filthy had died 5 years ago on that very island. Lux asked if Relly was tripping because Filthy was currently asleep in her room, but Relly assured him that she wasn't. She explained that her sister had miraculously woken up shortly after her death. Not only that, but she had inhuman strength. And it wasn't until she became the headmaster of the academy that she learned that Filthy was turning into an abyss. She believed the cure lay in the depths of the ruin and said she would find a way in at all costs. The next day, Lux zoned out while Lisha was helping him tune his Bahamut, and that pissed her off. After he apologized, she told him she was going to ask Relly for permission to set the disarming code for his over limit. After she left, Lux received a call from Fugal, who was somewhere on the island. He told Lux that the only way to save Filthy was to destroy Hayes' flute and defeat the Ragnarok, whose seed was planted inside Filthy. He also said he had something important he wanted to ask Lux. Later, when Lux went to check on Filthy, she told him that she already knew about everything. However, she wasn't scared of dying because she knew that her sister and Lux had people they could rely on. Lux told her not to say things like that and said he still needed her because he was the same weak boy he'd always been. But despite his weakness, He was willing to do everything to protect her because she helped him when he was at his lowest. Filthy knew she couldn't make him change his mind, so she promised to hold on until he succeeded with his plans. Later, the group returned to the ruin, and just as Lisha, the trigger-hungry princess, declared that she would blow the door down, Lux turned to Krolsifer for help. Krolsifer then opened the door to the depths of the ruins and lied, claiming that since Krush recognized her as her administrator, she could open it. After they walked in, they were surprised to find nothing but crystals and began questioning whether they had been transported to the Fortress of Solitude. Kuroshi confirmed they were in the depths of the ruin and revealed that all her missing memories had returned. However, the most important memory was that she'd been ordered to dispose of all of them because they had betrayed her master. The next moment, Hayes showed up with a now-controlled Filthy and thanked Lux for going along with her plan like an idiot. She then blew her flute, and after Filthy suited up, she ordered her to slay her friends and sister. Everyone who owned a drag ride immediately suited up, but the fight wasn't about to be fair because Kuroshi sent some unmanned drag rides to fight the squad. The way they moved made Lux realize that their limiters were turned off, and when he got cornered, Celestia moved in to assist him. Unfortunately, Filthy knocked her down, and when Lisha attempted to avenge her, she was grabbed and slammed into Krolsifer. Relly called out to them to be careful and revealed that Filthy's divine ability rendered other people's abilities ineffective. Meanwhile, Hayes was at the altar trying to use the core of the dead Ragnarok to stir up more trouble, but Fugel's arrival stopped her. Just as he said, he came to see what she was up to. She heard the sound of another flute. As soon as she realized it was Ahi replaying it, she tried to counter her command, but Filthy stopped her. At the same time, the others defeated the unmanned drag rides, and once Hayes saw that she was surrounded, she summoned her Ragnarok. Lisha and Celestia tried to destroy it, but their attacks were ineffective, as the Ragnarok could regenerate as fast as they shot it. As it began to retaliate, Lux swooped in and asked Lisha if he could use his overlimit break. Lisha didn't want to agree, but Lux told her that he couldn't afford to lose, so she gave him permission. As he began attacking, Lux recalled Fugel, telling him earlier that he was just as foolish as he was 5 years ago when he came to him for help. Lux was determined to prove him wrong. However, between the Ragnarok and Hayes' negative talk, Lux began losing hope until Filthy gave him her own pep talk. The moment she finished speaking, Lux activated Overlimit and destroyed the Ragnarok with one strike. The strike was so powerful that it caused the ruin to crash. Hayes refused to accept that she'd been defeated, but Fugel advised her to wake up to reality while he just smirked like he knew something she didn't. Later, as a bandaged up Lux sat in bed, Filthy insisted on staying next to him. After she finished the meal, which was obviously meant for him, she put her head on his shoulder and thanked him for saving her. Days after they returned to the academy, the girls threw Lux a party to celebrate his recovery, and Ahi said it was about time he stopped being an invalid. She had to put up with his unofficial harem arguing over who was supposed to nurse him back to health, and now she was scared for her life. Just then, Relly arrived and told them that she had been scolded and fined for leading a ruin investigation without proper authorization. The fact that she'd gone rogue on the island surprised them, and Relly said her punishment would have been more severe if the higher-ups hadn't been occupied with planning the new Empire's Foundation Festival. At the mention of the festival, Lisha's expression changed. Later, she tried to ask Lux to be her date for the festival, but Krolsifer beat her to it. As she was about to complain, Shires cut her off and said Celestia also wanted to go on a date with him during the festival. At this, Filthy voiced her interest, and Ahiri thanked the gods that she wasn't Lux at the moment. As the girls stared him down, Relly suggested that he pick the 3 girls who performed best during the training camp and take them out on dates. Lux told her that she was only making things worse, but Relly swore she was doing it for his own good. Unable to decide, Lux decided to split his time among the girls. The next day, he went into town with Ahiri and asked why nobles were flocking to the school like sheep. Ahiri explained that there would be an all-dragon battle, which was basically an excuse for the participating countries to battle for the rights to survey the ruins. She said Lux and the Night Squad were representing the Empire, and the boy yelped because no one had informed him about it. Ahiri warned him to keep a low profile and not get into trouble since he'd only just recovered. That warning wasn't just for the tournament, because the former Empire's assassin Blade had escaped from prison, and Lux was most likely their target. Eventually, the siblings parted ways so that Lux could get to his date with Celestia, and after he got there, the meddlesome trio made him dress as a butler. That claimed it would help them avoid drawing attention, and even though Lux felt his outfit would do the opposite, he didn't change because Celestia looked excited. He then took her around town, and while they were resting by the fountain, Celestia told Lux that he was amazing. He was loved by everyone at school, unlike her, who most people avoided as if she were a minefield. Lux didn't think he'd done anything worthy of the affection he got, but Celestia cut him off before he turned the conversation into a pity party. She said she was going to work on improving herself so she could proudly stand beside him as his fellow knight. When they tried to shake on it, Celestia tripped, and in his attempt to catch her, Lux ended up on top of her, his hand firmly gripping her melons. This moment was witnessed by the girls in 4K, and they made sure to tease him about trying to get to third base before the date was even over. They then took him to change for his date with Crucifer at a fancy gathering of nobles and drag knights from different countries who were around for the tournament. After they danced for a bit, they took a break on the balcony, but Alterise had her eyes on them the entire time. Crucifer asked Lux to kiss her so they could keep up their rust, and when he did, she told him he was a good kisser.
That's what I'm talking about. This shit means something to me, man.
She then returned to the party, leaving Lux all flustered, and the three girls agreed that Crucifer knew how to get what she wanted. Later, Lux rushed to meet Filthy for their date after changing back into his uniform. However, she was dressed casually, so he complimented her on the spot. Shah, Riss, and the others who were watching felt proud of him and were surprised when Relly suddenly showed up and began rooting for her sister. Eventually, Filthy took Lux to church so he could rest for a while, because she knew he was tired from running around and trying to be the perfect guy for everyone. After he woke up later, Lux went to meet Lisha, and she expressed disappointment at not being picked for a date. Lux apologized, but she brushed it aside and asked him to become her personal knight. Lux didn't think it was a good idea because of his identity, but Lisha pleaded with him to consider it and give his final answer before the festival's last day. After saying this, she ran off because she felt shy, and Lux didn't go after her. The next day, Lux and Ahi-Ri were at the bell tower, discussing, and Ahi-Ri was upset that Lux was taking on odd jobs even though he ought to be resting. She pointed out that, in his current state, he could operate Bahamut for only 12 minutes and reminded him to be cautious of the assassin. Almost immediately, she appeared behind them and introduced herself to them as Yoruka. Lux instantly went on guard and asked if she'd come there to unalive him, but Yoruka said she'd come to serve him. Lux couldn't tell if she was capping or not, and the fact that she was touching him so intimately had scrambled his brain. It wasn't until Ahi-Ri reminded him that he was literally embracing death that he snapped out of it and asked Yoruka to wait until he had time to deal with her situation properly. Yoruka told him that his wish was her command and then left the same way she had come. Ahi-Ri didn't believe what Yoruka had said, so she warned her brother to still be on his guard, but the boy was convinced he wouldn't see Yoruka for a while, only to be proven wrong when the girl showed up in the bathroom while he was taking a bath. His startled scream drew the attention of Lisha and the others, and Lisha wasn't pleased to see Lux with a girl 2 plot sizes bigger than her. Thankfully, he cleared up the misunderstanding, and as he escorted Yoruka away, he discovered they were on opposing sides. Yoruka had assumed he was biding his time at the academy until he could rise against the new empire, but Lux told her he didn't have such a grand scheme planned, and Yoruka was disappointed. The next moment, Celestia arrived and tried to protect Lux from Yoruka, so the assassin also equipped her drag ride. Lisha and the others also showed up in their drag rides, but Yoruka manipulated their rides to help herself. She then promised to tell Lux what would befall the new empire and then escaped using her camouflage ability. Meanwhile, Hayes, Sania, and Ragreed were elsewhere observing the city. Sania asked Hayes if she was sure that Yoruka would carry out their plans, and Hayes assured her that Yoruka would. The following day, Lisha began practicing her speech but gave up shortly after because her internal Wi-Fi wasn't connected. Just then, Lux came in since she'd sent for him earlier, and she began to tell him about her speech struggles. She also told him that she wished to present him to everyone as her knight after giving her speech. Meanwhile, in another ruin, Lux's haters and Yoruka were together, and Hayes asked Kurohi's replacement if everything was good to go. After the bot confirmed that it was, Yoruka walked away, and Sania once again questioned whether she could be trusted. Hayes said it didn't matter because Yoruka was only a tool for them, and then she began steering the ruin. Later in the day, the Acadia siblings were summoned by the 4 great nobles and informed that Ragreed planned to carry out his attacks after the tournament. Lux was surprised to hear that the Vile Man had escaped from prison and asked what they wanted him to do for them. Celestia's father explained that Ragreed's group had concealed about 100 abysses around the capital in preparation for their attack. They wanted Lux to help lure the creatures away, but Ahi-Ri complained that he would be in danger. Unfortunately, it wasn't a request, and the Queen's most trusted minister made that very clear. He said if Lux cooperated, the charges against them and Rili concerning the ruin which appeared on Reese Island would be dropped. After hearing this, Lux didn't think twice and accepted the job, but Ahi-Ri thought he was crazy. They also informed Lux that he had to win the tournament, and that was when Ahi-Ri almost lost it. Their demands were all at the detriment of Lux's life, but Lux assured her that he'd be fine and gave the minister his word that he would complete both tasks. While they were being driven back to the academy, Ahi-Ri still expressed her displeasure with Lux for accepting the minister's absurd request. She said if he told them about his current situation, they wouldn't have dumped all the Empire's problems on him. Lux replied that he would find a way to resolve the issue with his Bahamut, and Airi told him she wished she could go with him to protect him. This made him apologize for always worrying her, so Airi leaned against him because, in the end, he was still her big brother. Later in the day, Lux asked Lisha to modify his wyvern, and the princess was more than happy to do it. While she was preparing her tools, Lux spotted Yuruka and went after her. When he found her, she told him that she'd missed him, so Lux decided to take her to the city walls to discuss privately. He asked why she was still upholding her contract with the old empire, and she revealed that she was keeping her promise to her little brother. Before the empire destroyed her country, her brother ruled it after their father's death, and he was the kindest person she had ever known. Because he still took care of her even though she'd been unaliving people, she deemed bloodthirsty since she could wield a sword. Lux assumed that his father had taken her brother captive and forced her to sign a contract with Acadia, but she revealed her brother never made it out of her country. However, she had made a promise to him, and to fulfill that promise, she had to destroy the new empire. She then asked Lux again if he would join her cause, and he gave her the same answer as the other day. Hearing this, Yoruka declared that they were now enemies, and said he wasn't allowed to die by anyone's hands except hers. The next day, the All-Dragon tournament began, and Lux barely managed to win his first battle. Krosifer pointed out how strange it was that Lux seemed to be in a hurry, but Ahiri didn't bother telling her why. Instead, she rushed to find Lux just as he was about to head out and asked him to return to her in one piece. Shortly after he left, Lisha went in for her match, but just when she was about to win, she lost control of her ride and fired into the audience. It was obvious that Yoruka had stolen control of her ride, but no one had seen her, so Lisha was arrested despite explaining she was innocent. Meanwhile, Lux was still on his way to round up the Abyss when Sania ambushed him. She sent the Abyss after him using the flute, but Lux managed to stick to his mission and led them to the Empire's Knights. While the battle was going on, Ahiri informed the others about what Lux was doing, and Celestia insisted on going after Lux. Ahiri asked her not to act irrationally and explained that one of the nobles' conditions was to win the tournament. The group match was the following day, and if none of them were around, they would be automatically disqualified. Filthy figured that Lux was being used because of what went down on Reese Island, but Ahiri swore that Lux just wanted to protect them. They shifted the conversation to Lisha, and it didn't take long for them to realize that Yoruka was the true culprit. Krosifer then said they had to find and capture her so that Lisha could be released. Meanwhile, at the Knight's base, Lux was just wondering where Sania had disappeared to when an explosion rocked the place. He immediately rushed outside to find the place surrounded by the rebel army. An injured knight informed him that they were already heading to the city, and that was when Lux realized that they had been tricked from the start. He quickly went to face Ragreed, and he called him a coward for teaming up with enemy countries. He said Ragreed was being used, but the guy didn't care and bragged that he would punish the people of Adismata after he took the throne as its new emperor. Lux swore he wouldn't succeed and began attacking him, but Ragreed asked why he wasn't using Bahamut. According to him, Lux would need it because something worse than Ragnarok was approaching the city. The next moment, the creature in question came into view, and Ragreed revealed that it was the giant warrior otherwise known as the Fifth Ruin. Left with no choice, Lux switched to Bahamut, but Ragreed and his men kept chasing him. The former captain was petty enough to mock him, saying Lux had fallen into their plan and that in a few minutes he wouldn't be able to use parts of his Bahamut. This finally got Lux to face him, and when he attempted to use Howling Roar, Ragreed blocked him and managed to cut off one of his arms. It wasn't until he flew down to retrieve the sword that he realized Lux had reversed him. The arm on the ground belonged to Lux's wyvern, which had been painted to look like Bahamut. Lux then activated the real Bahamut, and when the angry Ragreed tried to attack him, he finished him off with one strike and zoomed off to fight the giant. Meanwhile, those in the capital were experiencing the same fear the citizens of Paradise Island felt when the Titans broke through the wall. But fortunately for them, the giant warrior hadn't gotten to them yet. When Lux contacted Ayiri, she told him about Lisha's situation, unaware that Sania was there at that moment. Hayes had sent her to mediate the new empire's surrender, but Lisha said she would never hand the country over to a group of mad people. Sania told her that acting tough was useless and reminded her that she was once a traitor to the old empire. Still, Lisha refused to change her decision, so Sania ordered her to be stripped to humiliate her. Just as the bad guards were about to carry out the order, Lux broke through the wall. Seeing him made Sania lose her confidence, so she ran off, claiming there were other people they could use as hostages. Lux then apologized to Lisha for being late, but the princess was all in her feelings and said everyone in the empire hated her. Lux retrieved her sword and revealed that what happened at the tournament was all part of Hayes' plan. Lisha already knew that, but she was already feeling like a blonde Sakura, so nothing Lux said was getting to her. Lux had to play the I need you card to snap her out of her mind, and when he stretched out his hand, she took it without a second thought. Meanwhile, outside, Hayes was calling out to everyone to surrender if they wanted to keep living, So Krulsifer and Filthy went to show her what they thought of her warning. Hayes laughed at their attempts and assured them that they were laboring in vain, but Leisha showed up the next moment and turned her smile upside down. Still, she bragged that Leisha wasn't strong enough to stop her giant, and just as the princess began to lose hope, Lux grabbed her hand. He said he would boost her ability with his, and that was what he did. Leisha's heavenly voice and his reload on fire forced the giant down, allowing Filthy to pull its cannon arm into a position where Krulsifer could freeze it. Once that happened, the other Karooch informed Hayes that they couldn't move anymore and that the girl lost her sanity. Lux asked his friends to take care of the rebel army and the Abyss, which had begun attacking the city, so he and Leisha could deal with Hayes properly. They didn't expect the crazy girl to fire a blast from her drag ride strong enough to split the city. At the same time, Sania went after the 4 great nobles, but Celestia arrived to fight her. As Hayes continued trying to destroy the city, Leisha fought her off, so Hayes began mocking Leisha, saying she was too weak to fight her. Suddenly, she realized Lux was gone, and Leisha told her that she was unworthy of fighting the Black Hero. As their fight intensified, Lux tried to find a way into the ruin but found Yoruka instead. She told him that because he had rejected her, she chose to side with Hayes and restore the old empire under her rule. Lux replied that he would fight her because he wanted to save her, and asked why her brother had been executed. Yoruka then revealed that her brother had been murdered by his officials, who blamed him for the fall of the country, even though they ran away when the empire attacked. So she accepted her fate and became the empire's assassin. Lux told her that she had settled for the wrong thing and told her to look at how Leisha had fought against the so-called fate the former empire had bestowed on her. Unfortunately, Yoruka wasn't interested in his speech and got close to him without him even realizing it. She used this trick to attack him continuously, but Lux soon caught on and began matching her attacks. As they fought, he mentioned her brother, and Yoruka paused for a few seconds, but that was enough for him to land a critical strike and take her down. Before leaving her alone, Lux said he destroyed the empire so he could rebuild it as a happier place, and that was when she realized she'd misunderstood his intentions. At that moment, Hayes was about to finish Leisha off, but Lux saved her just in time. Unfortunately, the bot had activated the giant's eye cannon and was about to blow the city into history's pages. Leisha screamed at Hayes to stop, but the former princess, there wasn't anything anyone could do to stop her. On cue, Yoruka destroyed the core powering the ruin, so Hayes decided to use her drag ride to get the job done herself. Leisha tried to stop her, but got knocked out of the sky, so Lux introduced her to his reload on fire. Then he caught Leisha before she went splat, and everything was right with the empire again. A few nights later, Leisha gave her speech at the closing ceremony of the founding festival, and when she introduced Lux as her personal knight, she asked them to judge him by his future actions. The people cheered and clapped, and it wasn't until they went in for the banquet that Leisha revealed how nervous she'd been. As Lux thanked her for trusting him, he suddenly spotted Fugle, but he just smiled and walked away. Unaware of what transpired, Leisha tried to propose a relationship to Lux, but the other girls showed up and ruined her plans.
Come on, man.
When Yoruka began flirting with him, the princess got so mad that she pulled out her sword and demanded to know who he loved. That's all from Lux and his band of crazy baddies, but what do you think Fugle is up to? And is Hayes really gone? If you got this far, comment the name of your favorite drag knight girl. Also, check out this next video.